The nightmare is officially over as the Indianapolis Colts fall to 4-12-1 in the 2022 NFL season, following a 32-31 loss to the Houston Texans here in Week 18. We're going to dive into this game and talk about everything that happened and close the book on this terrible season. All that and much more here on this episode of Locked On Colts. Let's get to it.
You are Locked On Colts, your daily Indianapolis Colts podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you all for tuning in to this episode of Locked On Colts and making us your first listen of the day. This is your daily podcast covering your Indianapolis Colts, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. This podcast is brought to you by BetterHelp. It's not a crisis line. It's not self-help. It's professional therapy done securely online. Available to people worldwide. If they have a special offer, and they have a special offer to my listeners here, get 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/lockedon. This is Zach Hicks of horseshoehuddle.com. I'm doing this solo today without the help of my co-host Jake Arthur, mainly because I think like you guys, we're just kind of ready to get to the offseason. So I'm just going to knock this out here, talk with you guys for about 20 minutes or so, and then we'll get on to the offseason, guys. But yeah, let's get into this game a little bit. Wow, what a game. I mean, if you guys are Team Tank, which I know a lot of you guys are jumping in here in the comment sections already, going crazy and having some fun. If you are Team Tank, this was the perfect game. The Indianapolis Colts came out. They looked slow. They looked sluggish. It looked like it was going to be a beat down early, but they came back and they made it close. And it really scared us for a little bit. You know, I know all you guys that are looking for that draft capital and looking at like, oh my gosh, you know, we need the Colts to be at pick 4 or pick 3. It looked scary there for a little bit. But then a Hail Mary touchdown by the Houston Texans where Rodney Thomas lets the ball go right through his hands. Then the 2-point conversion to give the Texans the victory. I mean, there's no perfect game. Like this game just kind of perfectly encapsulates everything that was the 2022 Indianapolis Colts. So in terms of storylines, I mean, wow, the sadness is over. We're officially out of this dark abyss that is the 2022 NFL season for the Colts. A team that had a lot of expectations coming into the year ends up 4-12-1 with a potential top 3 pick. You know, if a couple things go their way in the later games today, it could be a top 3 pick. It's likely going to be around pick 4, maybe pick 5. So that's what you guys are rooting for. Our rooting interest for later today, though, is that you want to look at the Cardinals. I think if the Cardinals beat whoever they're playing, the Colts can move up a spot. And then the Denver Broncos, who are going to be favorites against the Los Angeles Chargers, and the Chargers are likely going to rest their starters because they're locked into that 5th spot. So, yeah, the Indianapolis Colts can probably move up to pick 4. I'm guessing that's where they're going to end up. But, you know, a couple other wins here and there, they can move up to maybe number 3. So, it is officially done with the 2022 season, and that's kind of where all of our storylines go to. Talking a little bit about Jeff Saturday and his interim tenure here with the Colts. Like, yes, it could have been better. It could have actually somehow been worse. But Jeff Saturday finishes his 8-game run as the Colts interim head coach with a 1-7 record and a point differential of -80. So whatever your feelings are of Jeff Saturday, you know, he didn't have an offensive play caller. There was a lot of things going against him. The deck was stacked against him to be successful. But I really do think we are looking at one of the worst interim stints at least since the 90s, you know, since Rick Venturi back in the 90s. This is probably the worst interim stint that we have seen for a coach. And, you know, again, you can't blame Jeff too much. And honestly, if Jeff Saturday is not the head coach next year, we can all sit back and say, thank you, Jeff. Thank you for getting us this top pick. But Jeff Saturday's interim term here with the Colts just was not very good whatsoever. But that's all I really have for news and notes here. Let's get into this Colts offense a little bit. This Colts offense, I don't want to call it an offensive explosion today, but hey, the offense was more productive than they usually are. They went there, they scored 31 points. Yes, one of those was on a pick six, a couple other favorable field position things here, but hey, the offense moved the ball a little bit with Sam Ehlinger at quarterback. I'm not saying that he looks like he's the answer at quarterback whatsoever. He might be more of a long-term backup or something like that, or practice squad guy. But yeah, Sam Ehlinger was moving the ball pretty well. I can't really say too many things bad about him. He did throw a couple bad interceptions. The one in the red zone, obviously he got hit and that ball kind of just fluttered all the way to the defender. And then obviously the pick six with the defender around his legs was very Carson Wentzzy. Besides that, I really think Sam Ehlinger had a pretty solid game. Yeah, some of his throws look like ducks and stuff like that, but his mobility was very apparent. He got the ball out. He, kept the offense in rhythm. So yeah, there was a lot of good things from Sam Ehlinger in this game, and kind of everything you would expect from a day 3 pick guy making his 3rd career start. A lot of ups and downs, but Sam Ehlinger, I can't complain too much about what he did in this game. He did help the tank with those interceptions. So hats off to Sam Ehlinger in this one. Going to the running back room, though, this was the biggest bright spot. You guys are talking about it a couple times in here. Our running back room next year is going to be top tier. Zach Moss is our number 2 guy for Nomadic Brian here. The Moss Hines trade was low-key great for both teams. Naeem Hines had a great day with Buffalo today with those 2 kick return touchdowns. But Zach Moss, man, over 100 yards, I believe, for the first time in his NFL career. And he has looked awesome with the Colts. Yes, the Colts have been terrible these past couple of weeks. We can't say that many good things about them. But Zach Moss these last few weeks has looked like an old school hard-nosed running back. He looks like the perfect number 2 back to have for behind a Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor's going to go out there. He could run you over or he could run past you. And then for the 5-10, carries a game that you don't want to give to Jonathan Taylor, you're going to bring in this guy who can just run through you. That's what Zach Moss has looked like these last couple of weeks. He's a guy who's just going to run through tacklers. I don't know why Buffalo gave up on him so early. I really haven't been following his career there with the Bills, and maybe he was just terrible with the Bills. I'm not too sure, but just looking at what he's done here with the Colts, I've been very, very impressed by every single snap that he's played. So yeah, Zach Moss, he looks like he's part of the future here for the Colts, and Deion Jackson as well. You could see that speed on display for him. And so yeah, I was really impressed with this running back duo these last couple of weeks, and I really do think that that both of them factor into the Colts' future for sure. Wide receiver group, Paris Campbell. If we're giving game balls this season to players who overperformed or players who just had great seasons despite how terrible this team was, I think Paris Campbell gets one of those game balls. He is a guy who has never been healthy his entire career. Came in this year, played in every single game, had over 500 yards receiving. I think he almost got 100 yards rushing as well. Just a lot of really, really good things from Paris Campbell this season. He had a huge day today again. So yeah, I love Paris Campbell. I really hope Colts can find a way to bring him back. Outside that, Alec Pierce had his best game in a couple weeks, which is great to see. Michael Pittman Jr., some of his inconsistencies kind of reared its ugly head again, but I think he came 1 catch short of the 100 catches, which is probably great because I think he would have been the only receiver in NFL history with 100 catches and under 1,000 yards. So, maybe you don't want to be in that category there. Maybe wait until you have a more productive offense to get your 100 catches for the first time. But yeah, overall, wide receiver group needs some help this offseason. I think they had a decent day today, but that's something we'll talk about in, a lot more episodes going forward. And then the offensive line, I think the offensive line had improved under Jeff Saturday quite a bit, but it's still not where you want it to be. Bernard Ryman probably still needs another offseason of just working on that anchor and getting a little bit stronger and a little bit better. Will Fries looks like he could be a good backup, maybe a low-end starter, but you probably want to add some competition there. And then the other 3 guys, they just need to bounce back. It's pretty likely that Ryan Kelly, Quentin Nelson, and Braden Smith will all be back next season. Ryan Kelly's maybe the only one up in the air. But I do think all those guys will be back next season. They just need to turn it around. They need to get back to where they were. Maybe a whole off season with Jeff Saturday as offensive line coach can get them there, but they need to turn it around there. But this Colts offense, one of the worst offenses in the history of football. I mean, if you look at, according to DVOA, I think they're like the lowest rated offense of the 2010s in the NFL. 3 different starting quarterbacks that played, significant snaps this season. It's just a mess. I really, really do think this Colts offense needs a major revamp, despite them doing a couple good things today. So that's all I have to say about this offense for this game and this season. We're going to talk a lot about it in the future going forward. But before we move on, I want to tell you guys about the comfiest underwear around, Tommy John. Winter mornings are brutal, so here's my tip for tackling the day in comfort. Grab new Tommy John loungewear and take cozy wherever you go. Tommy John loungewear, pajamas, and underwear have dozens of comfort innovations, luxuriously soft tri-blend and micro model fabrics with 4-way stretch, and no lint balls or fuzz. Plus, it's all backed by Tommy John's best pair you'll ever wear, or its free guarantee. Get 20% off your first order at TommyJohns.com/lockedon. 20% off right now at TommyJohns.com/lockedon. See the site for details. All right, before I jump into some defense, I want to look at some of your guys' comments here, mainly because I need to take a little bit of a breather. I'm not used to doing these solo shows here, but also I want to make sure this is a little interactive for you guys here. So Jonathan asked here, Zach, what are the chances that another team could potentially leapfrog us for that number 1 spot? There could be another team that wants to move up to the Bears spot and take that first pick away from the Colts in a potential trade up. But I think who Jason can mention here, Jason's in the comment section as well. He knows the Bears a little bit better than I do, but I think the Bears don't want to go back too far. So going to the Colts pick at pick 4 or pick 5 is probably going to be the prime spot. And I think both teams are going to be very, very interested in the trade there. But we'll talk about that again in future episodes. The 91 offense is the only worst Colts offense. Jason, I wasn't alive during 1991, so I can't really attest to that, but I bet it was. What else we got here? We lost Proud for Stroud. I do think, again, I don't want to say too much, but I think if Jim Irsay is having as much of an impact on this draft as we expect, I do expect CJ Stroud to be probably the top target for this team. It's the best I can say. And B-Series is going through here yelling that quite a bit. So yeah, us Proud for Stroud. Yeah, for sure. But talking about this Colts defense, I mean, it was ugly out there. This Colts defense, they lost their legs weeks ago. They lost a lot of talent coming into this week. Yannick Ngakoue on IR, Isaiah Rodgers on IR, Stephon Gilmore out for this game. Obviously, Shaquille Leonard has not played at all this season. The Colts are just down a lot of players on defense. When you factor in also, they've been out there for so many snaps this year. They have gotten zero help from their offense this season. I really do think that this Colts defense just got, exactly what Jason's saying here, beat to hell. The defense just got beat to hell. And it's really, really hard to blame the defense for what's happened these last 4 weeks, despite, I think we can confidently say this defense was not a top 20 defense the last 4 weeks, but also you don't want to say, that's kind of indicative of what they are. You can't say that's what they actually were this season because they played some really good football, especially early in the season. It fell apart down the stretch, and it's hard to blame them for that. So, I do think this Colts defense is better than what they looked the last couple of weeks. They have a lot of talent. DeForest Buckner had a great season for the Indianapolis Colts. Grover Stewart had a career best season. And then shout out to Zaire Franklin. Oh, Darren, you barely beat me to it. I was just about to say it. Zaire Franklin, career best year easily. It's the most snaps he's ever played in a season. He played more snaps on defense this year than he has played his entire career up to this point. And the results were the all-time franchise record for tackles in the season, multiple sacks. I think he had 1 pick, or he had 0 picks this year, but he had like a couple of deflections that turned into picks. I think he had a forced fumble against the Eagles as well. I mean, Zaire Franklin, just an outstanding season. And I wrote an article for Horseshoe Huddle about like a week ago, I think at this point, where I talked about Zaire Franklin and talked about, this is a guy where if the Colts need a major culture change and the Colts need to change so much about this locker room and about this roster, Zaire Franklin needs to be front and center of that culture change. He needs to be the shining example of what an Indianapolis Colt is. That is the guy that you want to build around. He's going to be part of the solution. He's not part of the problem. Zaire Franklin will be part of the solution in Indianapolis. And he'll be part of turning this team around back into a contender or back into a really good spot. So, I really, really love Zaire and everything he did this season. And I'm glad that he got that franchise record. I think he absolutely deserves it. And then obviously another guy, Rodney McLeod, just an outstanding season. And Rodney Thomas as well, the other safety, even though he had a bad play that led to that touchdown. Rodney McLeod was phenomenal, career best season, had a pick six today against the Houston Texans. So I really, really like both those players. And I think Rodney Thomas is going to be, I don't want to pencil him in as a starter going forward, but I think he's a guy at free safety who is going to be playing quite a bit. So I really, really like a lot of pieces on this defense. I'm very, very curious on who's going to be calling this defense next season, because I really don't think it's going to be Gus Bradley again next year. I think it could be like a Leslie Frazier as the head coach, or if Jim Harbaugh comes in, we could get Vic Fangio back in Indy, which would be interesting. So a lot of things to talk about in these next couple of weeks, guys. And I'm going to wrap it up all here in a second, get you guys out of here, because honestly, what more is there really to say about this Colts team before the offseason? But first, the show is sponsored by BetterHelp Therapy Online. I recently moved, which is always pretty stressful. And then the holidays came, and we had to host people over at our house for the holidays. It was extremely busy. But unfortunately, life doesn't come with a user manual. So when it's not working for you, it's normal to feel kind of stuck, especially with the holidays, especially with a big move or new jobs and stuff like that. Therapists are trained to help you figure out the cause of challenging emotions and learn predictive coping skills, which makes therapy the closest thing to a guided tour of the complex engine called you. BetterHelp has connected over 3 million people with licensed therapists. It's convenient, secure, and accessible everywhere. Personally, guys, I've been to therapy quite a few times in my life. I've struggled with social anxiety disorder, with ADHD, a lot of things that have kind of held me back. But through therapy, through medication, I have been able to kind of turn it around a little bit, at least in my opinion. Everyone deserves to feel their best. BetterHelp makes it easier to get started. As the world's largest therapy service, they've matched millions of people with professionally licensed and vetted therapists available 100% online. No waiting rooms, no traffic, no endless searching for the right therapist. Get unstuck with BetterHelp. Learn more and save 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/lockedon. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. All right, guys, we're going to get out of here in just a second, but the manly one, Colts need a lot of therapy after the season. Great sponsor. BetterHelp is great, guys, and that's we're really going to need some help in therapy. But hey, with all the comments you guys are saying here about quarterbacks, CJ Stroud, Bryce Young, Will Levis, Anthony Richardson, the Colts are going to have some things to get excited about this offseason, and we're going to cover all of it here on Locked On Colts. If you guys know me, you guys know exactly what I've been about here with my my coverage of the Colts. I am very, very prevalent in the draft scene. I'm very, very big during draft season. It's probably the most connected I am to when it comes to what the Colts do, just from past history and in my relationship with agents. So we're going to have a lot of fun this draft season, guys. I know Jake is excited as well to kind of get that stuff rolling. And honestly, I think I'm going to have like 1 or 2 prospects on this week, just for quick little segments, just to get that draft vibe here with Locked On Colts. So we're gonna have a lot of fun, guys. It's gonna be a blast, and I hope you guys are as excited as I am to get into this, this offseason that is the most important one for the Colts, maybe in the last 20 years. I mean, this is a major offseason for the Colts because they have this top pick and they don't have a quarterback whatsoever, and they don't really have that guy who's a lock to go to them, and they don't have that first overall pick. It's just that it's a top 5, top 6 pick. So it's going to be a pretty vital offseason here for the Colts. And again, I hope you guys are as excited as I am to be a part of that with us here on Locked On Colts. But that's it. That's all I really have to say. Again, I am ready to close the book on this disgusting, atrocious 2022 season for the Indianapolis Colts and start looking towards the future. Make sure you guys are following us on social media at Locked On Colts, at Jake Arthur NFL, and at Zach Hicks 2 on Twitter. Also, subscribe to the Locked On Colts podcast on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. We'd love your ratings and reviews, so be sure to do that stuff for us there. And thank you for making us your listen of the day. Check out the Locked On Sports Today podcast for your next listen. The big stories of the day, plus instant reactions and big game recaps, and the take of the day. Available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. And also, guys, if you have ever dreamed about becoming an NFL GM and managing your own football franchise, then this game is definitely for you. Manage every strategic aspect of your team, play through the season, and lead your team to glory. You're responsible for hiring the right coaches and coordinators, trading players, making draft picks, navigating your franchise through free agency, and the ups and downs of a season. I know Jake recently played Ultimate GM, and he got fired pretty early on. So maybe do some different things from what Jake fired. I don't think I would get fired, so I'm going to jump into that right after I get off here and make the perfect offseason here for the Indianapolis Colts. So as Colts fans, I know you guys would be perfect for this game. Throw a grenade and start that franchise right over again. Locked On Colts listeners get a 100% free boost to their franchise when using the promo code Locked On in all caps in the game store. That's Locked On in all caps. So make sure to check it out today. To download the game, just visit ultimate-gm.com or look it up on the app stores. That's ultimate-gm.com. Ultimate Football GM. Start your dynasty today. And again, Locked On Colts fans, I appreciate you all jumping on and get excited for draft season. We'll catch you guys later this week as we dive into the Colts NFL offseason. Let's do it.